Good afternoon, I'm Stephanie Clue, and this is QNet News. New leader. Loyalist College has chosen a new president. A Loyalist grad talks about his experience with homelessness. A local food bank gets more than it expected. Loyalist College has named a new president and CEO. The college board announced on Tuesday that Anne-Marie Vaughn has been selected. QNet News reporter Selena Steele-Close spoke to her about her new role. Selena?
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, I did talk to Anne-Marie Vaughn. She told me how excited and thrilled she is to become the new Loyalist College president and to become part of the community. She has worked in Newfoundland for quite some time. She's also worked as the president of the North Atlantic College. She is going to have to work with the Ontario school system, so that's going to be a bit of a challenge for her, but she's excited for the challenge. She told me what her main priorities as president is. This is what she told me.
Support faculty and staff, because the students are only as successful as the faculty and staff feel supported with them. So creating that internal environment for that to happen, and then also working with the external community to understand what the hopes and dreams of the region are.
She also told me what she's going to be moving to Belleville on November 4th with her family. She's hoping by then she can start networking and getting to work as soon as possible. So back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Selena. Gleaner's Food Bank's annual food drive managed to beat last year's results and exceeded this year's expectations. Sean Ken Shepard has more.
The 21st Annual Food Drive, hosted by Gleaner's Food Bank, brought many of the local community groups together to help out those in need, and last Sunday's drive managed to smash this year's expectations. It's good news for food bank users such as 26-year-old Dan Moriarty, a local artist who uses the food bank to help bolster his food supply.
Well, we've been living here for about 4 years, and so I probably guess 3 years ago when we realized after the first year that college students have very little money.
Dan says that the big issue is trying to make his food last for as long as possible.
Get a bit of food, but it goes quickly.
Gleaner's Director of Operations, Suzanne Quinlan, says the successful food drive can be attributed to the dedication of the 360 volunteers, many of whom were young children, who came out to help.
It was exceptional considering that the students and some of the kids were young as 6 years of age, walking around in pouring rain. And they still persevered and went door to door. So kudos to everybody that was part of that.
Over 23 pallets worth of food made it to the food bank on Sunday, beating last year's food drive that produced only 10 pallets worth. Each are organized depending on the different kinds of foods being donated.
A heavy pallet would be all your soups, spaghetti sauce, because dry pasta is very heavy. And then the light pallet represents those lighter things like baby pablum, baby foods, crackers, cookies, any pastry items like, I'm thinking of cake mixes and such like that.
Dan says he hopes that the food drive will be able to provide much more food to those in need in the area.
Whether they're students or low-income families or just in desperate need, these things are valuable resources to the community.
Now, Gleaners hopes that their donations will last them up to 6 months, hopefully right up to their spring drive of next year. Now, it wasn't just community groups like the cadets that came out to help. Even the radio program at Loyalist College went door to door to help out with the fundraiser, and hopes are high that next year's spring drive will be just as successful. Sean Can Shepard, QNet News, Belleville.
From Skid Row to CEO, a Loyalist graduate who was once living on the streets is walking across Canada to raise funds for youth homelessness. He stopped in at Loyalist College recently. Michaela Chapman has more.
Meet Joe Roberts. Loyalist College is proud to call him an alumnus. He made his first $1 million before the age of 35 and is the president and CEO of a multimedia company in Vancouver. But before all of that, he was a homeless youth, a drug addict, and an alcoholic.
At 15, I needed to leave home. At 15 years old, I didn't have the skill set to manage my own life, and I ended up falling into drug dependency. I cycled out of school before I was 16, went to prison for the first time. So by the time I was 18 years old, I was living in downtown East Vancouver, pushing a real shopping cart, collecting cans and bottles to support a drug dependency.
50-year-old Roberts wants to help today's generation of homeless youth, so he's walking across Canada with a shopping cart to raise funds and awareness.
Had there not been help, I could have got discouraged and easily turned around. The thing is that when I put my hand up for help, help was there. Mom, detox, drug treatment, college, access to resources, access to mental health, access to funding to go to school. So all of those pieces were there. Had those pieces not been there, where would Joe be today?
Loyalist College was one of many stops Joe has been making during his Canada-wide marathon, and he says getting his message out to the public is key.
I think that people are inspired by walking across Canada or taking on a challenge of this magnitude. And so they want to listen and understand what you're doing. And what I have found is that you don't need to convince people to help you. You just need to give them a doorway, and they'll always walk through it.
So far, the Push for Change campaign has raised nearly $100,000, and for Roberts, he says it's a good start.
When we say end youth homelessness, what we're saying is shoring up prevention models, building better housing first models for youth, so that the system completely looks different than it does today. So when a young person does fall into the emergency services sector, they're able to move out and through it.
Joe started his cross-Canada marathon back in May and has already walked over 3,000 kilometers. He also pushes a shopping cart to represent homelessness, something he once did when he was living on the streets. By the end of his campaign, he's hoping to raise $17.5 million for youth homelessness. His trek ends next September in Vancouver. Michaela Chapman, QNet News, Belleville.
It's Waste Reduction Week, and Loyalist is offering an office composting program. Sustainability Coordinator Jessica Spooner said composting is now available on campus.
This week is Waste Reduction Week, and so as a kind of in recognition of that, we thought we would start a voluntary office compost program. So I've had many staff approach me about putting compost on campus, so staff and students have access to it.
Local farmers are facing trouble this year because of the drought that hit the province. Angus Argyle has the story.
Neil Lockwood has been a vendor at the Belleville Farmers Market since the 1990s. He said this year's drought has definitely affected the produce.
The berries were smaller, the Spanish onions some of them are this big and just not as high a yield on things.
Even though the produce is smaller, the prices are not. Lockwood explained that keeping the lands wet is costly.
For the irrigation, we had to raise the prices a little bit, but we're still comparable with the supermarkets.
Another local farmer from Sterling, Larry Jeffs, breeds and sells beef cows and grows hay, corn, and soybeans.
We needed the rain. We didn't get it at the right time, and the cobs didn't form, and neither did the beans.
Because of the drought, Jeffs said he had to do some improvising.
Normally what we would do is we would take so much off for silage because that's what the cows would eat for feed. Silage is ground up and then fermented. The rest of it we would take off for grain corn. Well, this year the cobs are only about half as big as what they should have been. There was no grain corn in our area, so we cut it off for corn silage.
Without being able to sell grain corn, Jeffs has had to tap into his farm insurance, but said it won't cover all that was lost.
We're definitely not going to have the income that we had, like what we would normally have. I would have to say that hopefully we can compensate by buying and selling hay that we would normally have sold for $50 is now going for $90 to $100.
But Jeffs has high hopes for the next season.
It's always better next year.
Angus Argyle, QNet News, Belleville.
The Trenton Golden Hawks won the championship last season with Jerome DuPont as their head coach. QNet's Buckley Smith sat down with the former NHLer.
My name is Jerome DuPont, and I'm the general manager and head coach of the Trenton Golden Hawks. I think we've always had a winning culture from get-go.
DuPont began his professional playing career in the NHL with the Chicago Blackhawks after being selected 15th overall in the 1980 draft. After playing parts of 5 seasons with Chicago, DuPont finished his career with the Toronto Maple Leafs before retiring as a player in 1987.
There wasn't a lot of thought about playing in the NHL until I got drafted, so I mean, I've got a passion for the game. I love the coaching piece, so I'm fortunate to be able to kind of parlay that experience into coaching. Both my parents are teachers. It wasn't necessarily something that I was thinking about as I played, but it was a natural outgrowth to the experience of playing and you know, the leadership piece that I guess assumed or got from my parents.
DuPont began coaching directly after retiring as a player, beginning with minor league hockey before advancing to coach Junior A. Following 2 seasons in the QMJHL, he returned to the Junior A level in 2012 with the Trenton Golden Hawks. With experience at a vast range of levels, DuPont has applied what he has learned in Trenton.
You know, if you are good at what you do, you can do it at any level, frankly. It's about, you know, the process and committing to the task and trying to get a little bit better each and every day.
For his players, having a coach who has played at the highest level, DuPont has been a huge benefit to their development.
He knows what it takes to get there, to help all of us get to higher levels, so yeah, it's huge for all of us. He's not just some guy like Wayne Gretzky who was able to just walk around in his era and stuff. He's a guy who had to work hard for everything he's gotten, and that's kind of the kind of philosophy we have on our team, so if everyone can follow suit with that, I think we'll do pretty well.
I've never hated losing more than playing on this team, and that comes from Jerome as well.
Under the leadership of DuPont, the Golden Hawks will be looking to defend their 2016 championship this season. Buckley Smith, QNet News, Trenton.
The Loyalist women's soccer team ended its season on a losing note. They lost 6-1 against Durham College last night. The Loyalist team finished the season with a record of 1 win, 9 losses, and 2 ties. Tuesday was supposed to break a record for the hottest day in October. We sent reporter Stelios Pappas out for some fresh air.
Pappas with QNet News, and as you can see behind me, it is beyond windy. Today was supposed to set a record high in the temperature in Ontario. It was supposed to be about 28 degrees. We're hitting around 22 right now. The last time a record was set, it was 1963 at 26.7 degrees. And even though it might get rainy and thunderstorms later this evening, you can still come out and enjoy the day today.
On October 18th, 1963, you could have gone into the Bay of Quinte and taken a dip. Even though today isn't that warm as predicted, Belleville residents are still enjoying the day.
Today, I'm loving it. You know, like this warm and it's like nice and breezy. It's not cold. I brought my coat. I didn't even need it. So I think that's pretty great, you know. But as far as the weather goes, you can't ask for anything better than this. You can't. You know, this is short weather actually.
I asked some residents if they believed the predicted high of the day would reach 28 degrees.
I believe you. I'd say you're a little high, above normal.
The weather is just beautiful. It's, well, it's not too sunny right now, but it's just balmy and warm and feels like we're down in the Caribbean.
With the nice weather, many parks were filled with animals and runners alike. QNet News caught up with some people out for a jog.
Well, I thought because of the good weather, I thought I'd come out for a run and enjoy the sights, you know, and the people in the park. So what better way to spend the day?
There were dozens walking, biking, out with their pets. Martineau felt it was the ideal day for exercise.
Absolutely, you know, this is this location I think is ideal if you like the outdoors. A beautiful area to spend your time, either walking on the waterfront or walking in trails. Absolutely gorgeous, you know, close proximity to Prince Edward County, so you couldn't find a better site.
At the end, we had a high of 22 degrees. Belleville celebrated a great day nonetheless. Stelios Pappas, QNet News, Belleville.
And that's our program. For news anytime, go to qnetnews.ca. Follow us on Twitter at QNetNews. I'm Stephanie Clue. Thanks for watching.